Okay.
When you were writing these textbooks, did you write them with the impression that, you know, this is how you would want the material to be taught to someone who's never been taught math? Because I find it really hard to believe that a typical textbook that people use in analysis is perhaps Rudin. It's famously called Baby Rudin, and it's a very popular math textbook. But I do not know how many professors would want their first exposure to reanalysis to be through Rudin or to be in the fashion, in the style of Rudin. I'm
Yeah.
guessing not many because of how terse and how um, perhaps non-conversational it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I agree with that. Um, and I don't know where exactly where the disconnect is. I think there are a lot of plausible explanations for this. One explanation is that perhaps Rudin's book is the way that Rudin would have wanted to learn when Rudin was a
Hmm.
student, right? I think
Hmm.
it's natural to think about your own, you think about your own self as a student and you say, this is what I would have liked. And I think that's quite possible. I have a friend, another friend who's he's an analyst. He is, extremely good at analysis. He read Rudin as an undergrad and he loved it. He's like, this is just so beautiful. And so, the elegance of his proofs um, he just found captivating. I would have struggled, really struggled with Rudin if I had learned from it first. Because, well, I'm not as good at analysis as my friend. I'm not as good at analysis as Walter Rudin is or was. And and so yeah, it just would have been quite difficult for me. So I think perhaps that in terms of my writing, perhaps this is an advantage where I can um, yeah, people. So maybe I have a better understanding of where a typical student is because I'm a little closer to intellectually. I'm a little closer to a typical student
At
in
least in
analysis.
analysis, perhaps,
Yeah,
yeah.
than Rudin is. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. Um, I mean, I think even if you're extremely strong, you can have empathy, right? As long as
Hmm.
I think
Hmm.
some things are harder, but if you have empathy, you can sort of work to put yourself in a student's shoes and figure out um, what the best approach would be for that student. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Also, back in the day, the you know how does a book get published? Well, a publisher approves it. Well, why is the publisher going to approve the book? There could be many things going into it, but if the person who's writing it is a senior researcher in the field, then they have some credibility and they think, okay, this will probably help the chances of our book being adopted when we go around to universities and say, hey, will you please use our book? So, um, so that probably sways a lot of books towards being not written by the best educators, but by the best researchers in the field. And
Hmm.
those could be the same. Some people could be in the overlap between those two groups, which is sort of the ideal situation. Um, but maybe not, right? And then so yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to rag on Rudin for sure because Rudin wrote
Of course, yeah.
an incredible book, and if he hadn't written his book, then the next generation of analysis books wouldn't have been written, and then my generation of analysis books wouldn't have been written. So a lot of it goes back to Rudin. He found, as we talked about, how do you get from point A to point Z in your course if point Z is you know uh, elegantly developing integrals or something. Well, he found a route to get there that was quite beautiful. So, um, you know, wonderful job by him. But yeah, I think. But my hope is that this new generation of text. I hope there's a new generation of textbooks that sort of approach it much more pedagogically. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, that would be my dream.
I think it's also important to ask ourselves, who are we writing these textbooks for? When
Mhm.
I, and what I mean by that is, when I'll read a math textbook, uh, usually the first couple of the foreword of like this the matter before the introduction. It includes that it has something of the sort. If you're going to teach a one semester course, I would cover chapter one, 1 to 5, and then 7 to 8, and then 9 and 10 are optional.
Mhm.
If you have a 2 semester course, you can cover these chapters and also the appendices, or you can leave them out to be your choice. Um, and so that gives me the impression, and I also read these books further, and it gives me the impression that these books were written for someone taking a course, in the sense, someone who has an instructor who can guide the student through the material.
Mhm.
Which is why I feel like with such books, it makes sense to not be as conversational as perhaps a long form textbook might be, because the book is meant to be used by an instructor to teach a student. So
Mhm.
you wouldn't want to have 20 pages explaining the concept of continuity because the professor already understands it. And what you're trying to do is create a resource where the professors can use it just to refer to it and then teach
Yeah.
using a teacher using the lectures. That's one objective. That's one kind of audience or like one kind of situation. And another situation, which I feel like is which can be quite common, is the student is just picking up a textbook and this is their first exposure and they don't really have a mentor to guide them through the book. And so you need those 20 pages to explain continuity, and you need um, to re-explain continuity several times throughout the book. Perhaps when
Mhm.
you're explaining different definitions of it, like sequences converging at one point, converging to the same limit. And that's another target audience. But
Mhm.
I feel like when these textbooks are written and when the publishers involved, these questions are often not asked. People tend to, at least authors, that this was my limited experience from reading textbooks. They tend to write textbooks as if it's just a survey of the material, and you're not really. And this, in the sense, the student cannot use the textbook to learn the material from scratch. They need an instructor. Perhaps it's because publishers, I don't know if they put a page count on how many pages a textbook can have. If there's a limit of sort, or
I don't think usually. I mean, there's some
Mhm.
practical bounds, but like my books are quite big, and publishers have approached me and said, "Can we publish your book?" So mine seemed like they were fine with the length of mine.
But I want to note that did the publishers approach you after your book started selling, or was it right when you finished and you sold it 10 copies?
No, yeah, it
Because it's
was
one thing
after
to
they
approach you after the book has already sold well, right?
exactly after they sold well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Because from the top of my head, I'm thinking,
no, yeah,
no, please
I
continue.
think, yeah, I think so. Yeah, if I'd pitched my real analysis book, so yeah, I just self-published it. In case some of your listeners don't know, yeah, I just published it through Amazon's publishing arm, and it makes it way cheaper. First of all, I um, like my like the analysis book. I remember this was a handful of years ago now, but one of the big publishers asked, "Could we publish your book?" At that time, it was being
I think it
sold
was
by
MIT Press.
MIT
Yeah.
Press, and
Yeah.
that was it. And they at this time, the book was being sold for like 18, $19, something like this. Inflation is kind of it inflated the price a little bit to today, but something like 18, $19. And they said we'd have to charge at least 80 to $100, at least minimum to publish it. So it's like, okay, so every student who buys this has to pay an extra $60 for what? What it's the book's the book, right? I mean, if if you can't find people to review your book, to edit your book well, then that's something that the publisher provides. It's like, okay, we can find reviewers for you. But if you know mathematicians who are happy to edit your book, then you don't need that.
Or
I mean,
graduate students that you can
or
use for grunt work.
exactly, or graduate students. Um, and so then what are they providing? Well, back in the day, it was they would go to every university and try to pitch your book and say, hey, Professor X, please, uh, Professor X, that's X-Men, please use this book in your classes. And that was a valuable thing because how did students buy their book? Well, they went to the university bookstore to get it. So as long as you can convince the
Yeah,
professor, then you have sold 20 books that semester. Um,
yeah, yeah.
so, but that the advantage of that has gone way down. There's a little advantage, but not much. I mean, a lot of professors choose their book by going to Amazon and just looking up options and ordering one or two and then just finding the one they want and then just telling their students to order it themselves from Amazon. That's the way a lot of college work. And so in my view, there's very little to be gained by charging my readers $60 more per book. Um, and also now I have complete control of it, which I like. I forget where this started. Oh, the size of the book. Yeah. So anyway, so that at least I've had a few different people I've talked to in the publishing industry that sort of has informed me about the basic standards of the books, and yeah, I don't think there's big limits, but it's weird. Why not? Because the books are so terse. It feels like they're trying to save paper. It feels like they're trying
Exactly.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, you have this great author writing this book who apparently knows all the stuff about this subject. We can't get
Yeah.
one paragraph of discussion between these results. We can't get a little bit of motivation. Where is this heading? You know, supposedly it's in their head. Why not write it down? Which is actually the main motivation of the book. A lot of professors, if a student would come to office hours and say, "How do I prove this theorem?" They wouldn't say, "Well, the first line of the proof is this. The second line of the proof is this." That's not the explanation. No, they say, "Well, let's talk about it. What do these terms mean? What's the picture we might draw? What's the big picture?
Exactly.
What are the
Yeah.
small
Yeah.
details?" There would be a whole discussion, but just no one was really writing those thoughts down. So that's the whole idea. Just write those things down. Yeah, I'm a little surprised that what I'm doing is kind of novel. You would think that some people would be doing this before, and there's some books who do a little bit of it, but yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping I'm not the only one though. I think it's going to be changing. I think more people are going to be writing books in this style, and before long, I won't be that interesting anymore. Lots of people will have done it.
Yeah. I doubt it because it's hard to do it well, which you really do in your books. But I'm curious. So you're saying publishers don't really put that many restrictions on how you write the book and even the number of pages?
Well, okay. Oh yeah, that's what I was
From
trying
your
to say.
experience, again.
Yeah, I think if I pitched my analysis book to publishers before, just at the very beginning, and said, "Will you publish this?"
Hmm.
I don't know. I would guess that at least some of them would not have published it because it looks way different than most books. That's my guess.
What
I
does
don't
that
know.
mean?
Like like I have jokes, right? I have all these jokes in it.
You have memes,
That
yeah.
is, I don't know. Most of them, some of them might have been like, this isn't professional or something. Maybe it's not
Interesting.
serious
Right.
enough. Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, and when I published it, yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe they would have
Okay.
accepted it in a hurry. Maybe they would have all declined it. I really don't know. But I do think that there is definitely a type of mathematician who will look at my books and say, I don't like it. It's not serious or not, which I totally disagree with. I think it's just, I think a good track record to say my proofs are just as rigorous and everything is, and everything is just as good. But I do. It's very conversational, and there are certain things that I think some people might not like, but again, I don't really know.
Again, it's about the audience. If a professor is reading the book and expecting to use it as a reference,
Yeah.
maybe it's not the most optimal book. But if it's a student learning analysis for the first time who has just taken a calculus course, I'd hard to say that there's probably a better textbook. Like in
Well,
my view, of course.
well, thank you. I appreciate that. I don't know. I mean, I think if I were a professor wanting to teach something, having someone just tell me like, "Hey, these are like the things that you should say to your students." Like here are the different ways because the professor has to teach it too. They don't just write down the
Of
stuff on
course,
the
yeah.
board. They also have to talk. So I think it would be better for professors, but I don't know. But certainly people who are self-learning. I mean, there are a lot of people,
Mhm.
way more than I would have thought, who learn
Damn it.
math
One
for
second, I
fun.
cannot hear you because my.
Oh, are you there?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Sorry, yeah. You were
Okay.
saying some people, yeah.
Yeah, I would not have thought this before writing books, but nowadays I get emails one or two a week at least from people who are not students but are reading the books just because they want to learn math. A lot of retirees. Someone I'll get emails. Someone say, "Hey, I was an engineer for 35 years. Now I'm retired, but I want to. But I always liked math. I just never had the time to learn it. So I'm reading your books. I appreciate them. Whatever." So there are a lot of people like that too, and for definitely for the self-learning community, I think, as you're saying, for students, but also people who are not, who are kind of students of the subject but aren't taking it as a class. Yeah, having more
Hmm.
explanations, I think, is appreciated, and there are more of these people than I would have thought.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's great to think about like a world where you have such long form textbooks, but for graduate level courses, or basically math that is not the standard math, you know.
Hmm.
So analysis, abstract algebra, um, perhaps even topology, differential equations. I'd say these are like a probability. These are a part of a standard math curriculum,
Yeah.
but algebraic number theory or measure theory, more advanced analysis,
Hmm.
or perhaps advanced counting book, Ramsey theory, etc., etc. It would be great to see textbooks that are as conversational as you made your real analysis and proofs book, um, just because of accessibility. Because, first of all, these topics are advanced topics. So you would typically need a professor or a lecturer to guide you through the material. But if you can have a textbook that's accessible to most people and that you don't need a professor to teach you the stuff, I mean, that's great. Then you have math becomes more accessible. Harder math becomes more accessible to people.
Yeah.
So,
No, I totally
yeah.
agree. Yeah, if anyone's listening or you yourself or down to if you want to write a long form math textbook, please adopt my style. I'd be very happy for more people to be writing in this way. And my guess is that it's going to happen. I do occasionally get emails from someone who's saying, "Hey, I'm going to write a book in your same style." Uh,
That's
it
great. Yeah.
Yeah. So far,
That's
I
really
don't think
great.
anyone's followed through with it. They are a lot of work. People are sometimes get excited at the beginning and then drift away at the end or even in
Oh,
the
yeah, yeah,
middle.
yeah.
So that'll happen. But yeah, I definitely encourage people to do it. I hope more people write them. Um, as for me, I'm going to keep writing. So these graduate topics, I probably won't get to those until I've done more of the undergrad ones. But yeah, I enjoy it,
Yeah.
and AI is a decent writer, so who knows how that is going to change, you know.
Yes.
But you have to know, you have to spend time with it though. AI is can help you in some ways write books like this, but I don't know. It can only go so far. You have to if you want AI to write a Rudin style book that just lists a bunch of results and proof, result, proof, result, proof. I mean, AI can whip out
Do
those
that pretty
books
well.
very well, I would think, by this point, especially if it's a subject that's been done a number of times. But but yeah, what I call long form writing. Yeah, I would say that's going to require more work. But I hope some of your listeners take up the challenge.